students, I'm still experimenting. So with every single class, I teach a class called Introduction to South Asia, which is quite a very general class. They look at politics for 2 weeks, and then religion and culture for 2 weeks, and Bollywood for 2 weeks, that sort of thing. So it gives me a lot of scope to experiment in terms of what sort of material I dish out during the tutorial. And it's interesting to see the way people respond then to different things. So for example, if we talk about the issue or the historical encounter of partition, and students studying about that in a very textual sort of form, reading about the statistics of deaths, the committees involved, just sort of very dry facts of a very traumatic event. I think it doesn't actually convey the severity of it. And so what I try to do then is to get them to read short story, for example, by Sadat Hassan Manto, a well-known Pakistani Indian Urdu writer. And I can actually see those moments happening for the students in terms of, that silence after the text is read, and then the questions that come after. I'm not sure though if one moment is actually effective enough, and I guess that's why, as a tutor, I would just keep trying to push that in different directions every week.
So maybe one of the things is you created a wonderful moment, but there's just not enough of it to produce that general environment. As you said, there have been many experiences in your life that brought you to this stage. And yours is just one class. Philip Holden was the only class you took where you had that wonderful experience. So perhaps for the university, it's how to realize that those moments are important and to replicate them many times across the course of the semester in many different classes and modules that students get exposed to.
As opposed to them giving, the 5 correct answers, the points in the essay, in a long form essay.
But in university, should there even be 5 correct points? I mean, what's your experience? Do you find that you still find your university education too restrictive, intellectually even? Do you still feel that it's really just so scoped out? We can tell the audience a bit more about that.
Well, I mean, just very basic things like the use of PowerPoint, the photocopying of books into a course pack where you never even touch a book for an entire semester, and you don't even read the acknowledgements page, you don't read anything.
Did you read Toto Chan when you were young? That would be my ideal university. It's a Japanese book about this primary school, elementary school that is inside a container, an old train container, and they go out to the garden, they go into nature, and they learn very hands-on things.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think Charlene also mentioned this idea of art being really exploring what it means to be human, and in some ways it seems almost as if the institutions that we are involved in educationally seem to be very dehumanizing process, and in that sense it seems to be almost in total opposition and conflict.
Yeah, and I think what is difficult about that question, or perhaps sidestep, is that already as it is, the question of what does it mean to be 21 years old is enough to tackle than just, can we just figure out my love life right now, because it's too difficult. But I think that's what I love about Lena Dunham, is she's really spotlighted this generation, that what we go through, it's such a mix, it's such a bag of emotional hurdles, and so where the arts comes in to supplement even an austere sense of being, providing perhaps even spiritual guidance. I need to go back to that because it's really drawing me, and books as well. Literature does teach you a lot about life, and
I think one thing I would be interested in exploring, maybe in relation to in-person booking and perfectionism in the art and in the theatre scene, is we've been talking about the institution as sort of a very top-down thing, right? But what about just the space of the institution and kids like us sort of maneuvering our way around it? I was curious about what
the institution is, as much as it is institutionalized and very structured, it is also a community, and it's a bunch of cliques and lunch groups.
So I mean, from what I've observed, which I think might be slightly wrong, but please correct me, there seems to be quite a lot of factionalism in the theatre scene. And I don't know if this is correct, just based on Facebook invitations to different events, and there's all different people involved in each group, it seems almost divided along the lines of institutional, factional groups. And I'm wondering then whether, what is the importance of these sort of informal networks that people form in these institutions, outside of institutional processes, and whether that actually means that in some ways these serendipitous encounters then become more important than shared artistic visions. Maybe the shared artistic visions actually get shaped by these informal networks that are formed. Yeah.
I was okay. Firstly, I guess the question about factionalism. I was coming back from rehearsal yesterday night, and I was like at the back, like in the back of a van with 7 or 8 other students, all from like different universities and polytechnics. So I don't think there's factionalism in kind of like, oh, this is our clique, or this is our thing. And in fact, if anything, I think a lot of it has been very positive. There's a lot of like cross-fertilization. So if, for example, Takeoff, we have the people who work in Takeoff or with Takeoff, they're also doing shows with like the common folk and who are putting up something at the Substation in May or June. As well as for the Lit Art Festival, and it's actually a very supportive and nurturing environment. But I think what was said earlier about having a lot of tribes and the tribes being nomadic is actually quite true. I think in terms of how the different groups form, you form based on a certain like philosophy or ideology of like, this is the kind of theatre that we make and these are our processes, and you have to have that shared sort of vision and style of working in order to work as an artistic group. So there's a kind of like mutual respect that, okay, this is not the kind of art that I do, like I don't do mine, but I respect that, your group does mine. And I do think some of it actually is influenced by universities. Because, for example, a lot of the artists that Takeoff works with, they are from NUS. And so now, because our next show is really a comedy sketch series, so a lot of our actors and writers have come from an improv drama group within NUS. And improv drama, that appears to be like this kind of subculture, it appears to have been born within that location and that community, and that's quite distinctive. I don't know how much it relates to, linking back to what you said about mentors. I guess, we were talking about how, it's very, university very dehumanizing process, and I'm a law student, so I agree. But if we contrast that for like what a positive like education experience could be like, when I was in gender studies in pre-U, right, it was like all of us after that we went on to do theatre. Every student in that class. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that really the administration was not very bothered with us. In the first week there were 7 in the class, and in the second week there were 6, and by the 4th week there were 4 people left in the class. And because we were such a small group, our teachers was like, alright, it's a new syllabus, go do whatever you want. We're grading you on a play, go put on a play, do whatever you want. And so we didn't have the same kind of restraints that other courses had, that rubric. Nobody knew what the rubrics were. It was non-existent or just a mystery. And because of that, like, we felt liberated. And when the final product came out, we did, I think, sort of a somewhat surrealistic kind of piece, right? And previously the culture in the school was to do a lot of comedy. And so this was really quite markedly different, and they were just like, how did this happen within the school environment? And I think a lot of it had to do with this freedom and this sort of free, safe space that was created in the
nourishing space of consent.
Yeah.
It's interesting because a lot of the submissions we get as well, I feel like tend to be from people who are in that sort of space and having that sort of time to give the NS men. I'm spending more time reflecting and writing. No, it's true though. It's something I've observed. Yeah, I wonder whether that's completely directly related to what you're talking about.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that links also to the idea of like, being on the fringes, like close that once you feel like you're an outsider or people are just not paying attention, then it's like, oh, alright, then I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
I think both, what you've all brought out, the relationship of having the time to do these things, the space to explore and discover and find your own artistic vision. And just like you talked about university being a dehumanizing place, and what is it about the university that stops you from this intellectual exploration? There's this very fixed rubric, and you feel very restrained even intellectually in the kinds of questions that you ask, what you learn about. And to what extent is this a function of the way universities in Singapore are set up? As a university educator myself, I have to lecture to 450 students. How do I create that moment of that moment where I introduce them to art, and then they have that awakening for 450 students, most of whom are playing with their laptops in the back of the lecture hall and are falling asleep. And you know, the tutorials are 25 students. And then we talked about the workload. After taking 5-6 modules a semester, do they want to sit through a heavy film or pursue any more intellectual activity at the end of the day? So to what extent is that whole structure not conducive to the kinds of things that we feel that is needed to produce art and creative exploration?
Rayma has a question.
Oh, yes.
Do you want the God microphone? Or
I was mumbling here, sorry. She won't shut up until she gets to say it.
Sorry, thank you very much. I think it was very interesting listening. But I've got one question: is the way we are progressing, and going back to the topic about arts community and the university, and as young people within the tertiary institutions as well as high school moving up, I see an over-reliance on the university as like, I need my moment, then I'm going, I think we all need sparks, but I'm not going to rely on the university, especially the way it's structured right now, especially listening to what you have said. It's so oriented towards a merit scheme and all that, to find my own bursts of energy and my own creativity. On top of that, there's also this other thing that you have raised, that there seems to be an invisible OB marker that everyone knows somewhere. So does it really matter, is my question. Or each and everyone seems to have come out, maybe despite of the university and the rigor of the university. So perhaps it's more of a hindrance, and yet we see a lot of sparks around. So are we over-emphasizing the university is my question. And I go back to what Charlene raised. You know, as you all were talking, I was thinking about the multi-ethical and the multi-logical approach to things, which is, I think, fascinating areas to explore. And do I really need the university to do this? I'm out of league with the present university system. So maybe your voices as people going through the system, do we really need, we can't change the university, I think, right now, but I would like to hear that perspective. Yeah, thanks.
Or whoever.
Actually, I think this links to something Christina asked me about in the email. She said, you know, how do you, well, I mean, okay, speaking purely from the perspective of theatre, I think the point really in my experience is that we haven't needed the university. If anything, the role of the way we've responded to the university as a sort of catalyst to go out there and make art is interesting, because when you recognize that there's a certain like structure and institution here, right, and then a part of you instinctively, and it sort of feels the need to, I guess, move against it or respond to it. And when you realize that, you know, it won't take place within the university, that's what drives you out. So I guess for me, from a theatre perspective, like I said, it's not a big problem for me that the university doesn't necessarily have the ideal environment for me to make art in, because like I said, for informal theatre groups, we make our own art. So we don't need the university in that respect. I think it would be different from what Christina's been saying about visual arts, where that element of education and tools might have a greater role. No, so for us, I think for theatre, it's very much occurs independently. We don't need the university. But I guess what we were trying to think about, given the topic today, was whether, you know, this is a this is necessarily a state of affairs that is desirable, or whether we should be moving in a different direction. And maybe even if, you can do it concurrently, like theatre in the university and theatre outside, whether there should be greater support. Because the university has a lot of resources that would really, really help people who do independent theatre. We have no money and it is expensive to put up a play. And whereas the universities, they have venues, they have rental, and it is really expensive. So, even institutional support, for example, having special discounts or payment structures or, rental of areas, whether the university with its resources could help to sort of facilitate our creative process, and in turn, what can we give back in terms of bringing a certain element of dynamism or questioning or culture into the university to stimulate a bit. I think that might be a more sort of productive, perhaps, line of inquiry to pursue.
A very personal response would be, first of all, we are supporting university because of the topic and our own relationship with the university. But I think one thing is that I think it is true that, of course, in the most ideal situation, people would be exploring and discovering their interests outside of the university. But as Christina mentioned, I think we are in sort of this age where most university-age students are really sort of residing in some sort of position between uber apathy and hyper efficiency. And the sort of classroom environment that students are in, you just sort of I feel that vibe very much. I think that's a really good description of the state of students' minds these days. The other thing is that also, I think the university years are, of course, very formative years. And
so they should be.
And they are, and the number of hours people spend doing work related to the university is massive. So in that sense, as a very personal response as an educator, then I would see it as a sort of responsibility, a sort of burden to then do what I can with this space and these resources that I have to sort of create these encounters, to then push people to try to explore outside of the classroom. So I think, in a sense, it's sort of a point of departure, and we hope that departure happens, but it is the point at which we begin from.
I think we've got quite a few members of the audience with something to say. Why don't we hear from the various audience members before we come back to the panel? So, first gentleman and then
I do agree that we need role models. I come from the same track as Ping. I did studies, I went to NUS, and then I'm still doing theatre. I'm teaching theatre. But and we need role models. I think most of you begin with having role models to inspire. I think the university gives the structure, but how we make use of it is up to us. We think, we go out, we do. In NUS, I don't share the same experience as you, Ping, because I wrote a proposal, I submitted to the Center for the Arts, and I got my work staged. That's how it was done. And so, at the same time, it's just not about, just about receiving. It's also at the same time digesting what you're receiving and to act upon it. That's what I'm a bit in disagreement with what's being discussed here, because I don't share the same experience, and I think we're generalizing too many things.
Hi, basically I just want to agree actually with Lisa also, and to the lady over there. I am a mature student, I'm still in NUS, and I'm doing my PhD now. I'm trying to keep very calm actually, because I'm a bit upset with my PhD in theatre studies. I'm actually quite upset what's happening here. I'm not sure what this conversation is about at the moment, because it seems to be, there seems to be this big critique on the university not being responsible for your arts education. My question is, when did the university ever should be accountable for arts education, when actually it serves to be an institution just for education? Number two, again I want to bring up history. A lot of theatre companies that you see today, we talked about art industry just now, the arts community, that come up today and make what the artistic or theatrical, I would say theatre, performing arts landscape today, they all came from the university. Theatre Works, TNS, Action Theatre, and they all didn't have the kind of resources that you guys have today. Nobody was Facebooking, nobody was tweeting, twittering, whatever you call it. So I'm not sure where this is coming from. I don't quite understand these lack of resources that you keep talking about. Ong didn't have a role model. He stumbled on his role model in Balgun and Christian. So did Elvin. So did Chai. No one in their sociology class said, go and do theatre. You know, I think where other departments and faculties are concerned, they try to link the arts from the outside world into the university, whether it's history department. I could actually give you a list because I took some of the modules from the other faculties, but I'm not going to go into that. My question is, yeah, sure, it's great that you want to make that link, but can we just be a bit clear that as university students, my responsibility as a student is to make sure I get the grades that I am supposed to get. And that's it. And then, when I have the time and the resources to enrich myself, I do it. So I'm not sure what this big plus is, because unless you are frustrated with a university that hasn't given you a liberal arts education, then I think that's a different issue. Thanks.
Could you pass the mic over?
Yeah, hi. I'm also a PhD student in Literature Studies. It seems to me that something that you've been speaking about but hasn't been pinned down is this how artistic practice blurs the boundaries between the arts community and the university. We have here Darwin. He began his theatre company not with the resources of the university, but there is this meeting point in the university that sets you out to do stuff. So perhaps we can pin down the discussion into something that you've been talking about, or frame it a bit more, into how this meeting point in the university blurs the boundary in and out society, as it were, into the arts community.
I'm sorry, the gentleman over there, I didn't catch your name.
Tonya.
Sorry?
Tonya.
Oh yeah.
Tonya.
Yeah. Actually, I'm sorry that you interpreted this as being sort of a complaint. That actually wasn't our intention. Speaking for me personally, I don't feel like, my point really was that I didn't feel as if the university owed me an obligation to give me an arts education. I felt that, but then it was brought up, the question that was posed to us was, why wasn't it sort of more entangled, and should it be more entangled? It's really a question of should it. So whatever you have said is actually, I think, something that's very interesting and very relevant to what we're trying to think about and talk about at the round table today. Because I think we got perhaps a bit sidetracked along the notion that, well, should it, and we're conflating whether what should be or what is desirable, which is a very different discussion from, I think, our own personal experience in the present day. So if we're really talking about, to answer the question of, I think, whether the university should be doing more, I have no complaints. I don't feel as if the university owes me an obligation to tell me about the arts or to provide me with resources. That is precisely why we do theatre independently, because we don't feel that anybody owes us anything apart from that degree and that education that we paid for. However, again, I also think that actually for me in theatre, what has been interesting about the university and the arts community is that it is a